Today on the channel, let's return to the Kyle Peterson Top 10 in honor of 31,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. And today, we're counting down my top 10 WWE Mattel basic figures of all time.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 10. A Thursday tradition here on the channel where we're counting down our top 5, or in this case, top 10 favorites of something. And today we're doing a top 10 in honor of 31,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Thank you guys and gals for subscribing out there. We'll do another top 10 when we hit 32,000 on the channel. But today we're doing a top 10. I was trying to think of what to do for a top 10 list, and I consulted the old Patreon. Shout out to the Patreon members over there. And we did come to the conclusion, hey, how about a top 10 best Mattel basic figures of all time? Now, basics a lot of times kind of thought of as less than. In a lot of ways, that's probably true. They're more for little kids out there. If you have a little kid, you're probably going to buy them 2 basics instead of 1 elite, especially if they're like a 3 or 4-year-old. So it makes sense. But over the years, and we're up to like basic series 140. We're dangerously close to basic series 200, if you can believe that before you know it. But basics have been around a heck of a long time, and basics have had their ebbs and flows. Of course, they've lost some articulation, but there's rumors that the basics may rise again. We'll see. There may be some changes to the basics in the future. We'll stay tuned to that one. But there's been some really good basics over the years that maybe have been forgotten. And then there's been some basics that honestly should have been forgotten and have been forgotten. And there's been a lot of subpar stuff, some kind of just going through the motion stuff. Have been quite a few bangers over the years. A lot of really good basics. And we're going to pinpoint down to 10 of them. This is a very tough one as there's a lot of figures, like over 1,000 basic figures. You go to the 2-packs, the single packs, special packs, things like that. Lots and lots of basic figures. But we're talking about Championship Showdown, the core sets, things like that. We're talking about the battle packs, anything in the basic. We're not counting the entrance greats. Those don't really count. But we are talking just run-of-the-mill basics there. And like I said, there's been so many over the years, and I wouldn't be shocked if I didn't forget one. I went through the whole list, went through one after another, and I did pare it down. But these moved a lot. A lot of times, I move a couple of things. This one I had to move many different times, and it's really tough to pinpoint my 10 favorite. But we've done it. We're going to do it in this very video. Of course, like I always say, this is my list. Make sure you put your list in the comments down below, and make sure you do put them in order. That's the hard part. That is the fun part. So there it is. There is the basics top 10. Let's kick it off at number 10. All right, we kick it off at number 10, but before we start at number 10, I wanted to have one honorable mention. I don't do this very often, but this wasn't in my top 10, but it felt like it needed some recognition as one of the hardest working basics in the game, at least in my collection. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the suited Baron Corbin basic. You can probably still find this maybe at your Walmart store, your local Walmart, something like that. But it is a beautiful base for customization. And one of my favorite things we do get from basic figures is suited bodies. That is pretty much the go-to spot for suited backstage gear figures is the basic line. And there's been a ton of those. You'll see a few of them in this very top 10 list. But I wanted to mention this Baron Corbin one, not necessarily for Baron Corbin, but for the base he can be used at. So, of course, I have the Baron Corbin right here. But I also didn't realize how many times I used this in my collection until now. I had an old Battle Pack Vince McMahon head, popped that off, put it on Baron Corbin's body. There you go. You get a kind of Ruthless Aggression era, maybe a little bit before Vince McMahon suited figure right there. How about old Eazy-E, Eric Bischoff? Of course, he had many a Jax figure. Grabbed an old beater Jax figure, popped the head off, put it on here. All of a sudden, you got an Eric Bischoff in a little bit of a suit going on. So I did have that one in my collection. And then I had an old basic of course, Wade Barrett, who is now an announcer, of course, in the WWE. Pop that off, and all of a sudden, bam, you got announcer Wade Barrett. So I made 3 different customs out of this one figure here. And for $10 a pop and a little heated head, that's a pretty cheap custom out there in your collection, and really is very easy to do. Anybody could do it. No doubt about it. So this Baron Corbin, I got to give a little bit of shout out to this one. Talk about a versatile basic. Had to be on the honorable mention list right there. So Baron Corbin, honorable mention. But now we turn our attention to series 128 for our number 10 basic figure. Who is it in 128? Well, it's my man, my main man, MVP. Absolutely love MVP. You guys know that. Love it whenever we get an MVP figure, going all the way back to the Jax days. Possibly, I'd have to put the pen to the paper, my favorite Ruthless Aggression era superstar. Absolutely loved. We got him in his kind of managerial gear. We got the chain. Just missing his cane is all it's missing here. But I love to pair this one up with Bobby Lashley, Shelton, Cedric, Omos, whatever you need to do. Just a very cool one. Yes, it's a little bit recent. Yes, my MVP fandom showing through here. But I really do like this basic figure. And once again, a great basis for another custom if you want to go that route. So MVP coming in hot at number 10. Next, we got the number 9 selection here, and number 9 is a future WWE Hall of Famer, of course, and possibly the female performer that's had the most figures over the years when you count in basics and elites, of course, as she goes back to the infancy of the Mattel days, of course, as part of the Hart dynasty. Who are we talking about? Of course, we're talking about Natalya Neihart, but we're going to Basic Series 78, and I gotta say, Natalya is one of the female performers they've done the best job with in the head sculpt department. For whatever reason, I always love this one. It really does feel like Natalya at this point in time in her career. I still go back to this as being one of my favorite head sculpts. I don't know, there's just something about it that really is an awesome, awesome head sculpt, and she's had a ton of good ones over the years. They have really nailed her head, where some performers, they just can never get quite right, like Bret Hart. Natalya, for whatever reason, they seem to always nail her figures, and Elite 78, or I should say Basic 78, is a good one, and that's why it's coming in at number 9. Next up, we're at the number 8 spot. Number 8, I'm getting a little deja vu going on like a young Iron Maiden here, as we did just recently do a top 5 countdown of this performer. Who are we talking about? We're the man that rules the world. It is big ol' Sid. Yes, Sid Justice in this incarnation here. Very, very cool Sid figure. My favorite Mattel Sid figure, well, close to my favorite. I like that referee one, of course. But a lot of people were like, I can't believe you didn't put the other Elite from the Attitude Era and the New Gen Era in your list. But no, this one defeats that one. Of course, this was when Sid was a lot bigger to me personally, coming off his Horseman run. Very iconic in this blue color, and then his feud with Hogan, all that kind of stuff. Just an awesome, awesome Sid. And if there was ever a Sid that needed ran back, this is the one. Give us an Elite version of this Sid. Put it in the Legends line. Put it somewhere. I don't know anybody that would turn their nose up on this one. So this is an easy layup, I think, for the Mattel team to convert over to an Elite figure. So no doubt on my mind this one was going to be in the list. Not sure where exactly it was going to be, but here it is. It's settled in at number 8. We've arrived at the number 7 spot in our top 10 countdown, and number 7, I believe, is the only Battle Pack representation in this countdown video, as it's a one figure. Of course, he was paired up with Christian, and Christian, unfortunately, not on this list here. But this one is here at number 7, and this one is for reasons because this is his only Mattel figure. He's one of my all-time favorite performers, especially during the heyday of ECW. Who are we talking about at number 7? Well, we're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, the Tommy Dreamer. Absolutely love this Tommy Dreamer. Yeah, it's a little bit skinny maybe. It's not the perfect Tommy Dreamer, but man, we just never got another Mattel Tommy Dreamer. An Elite Tommy Dreamer would be something that would be amazing. I would love so many of those ECW performers in the Elite line one of these days, but a lot of them are with other promotions or not under contract, whatever the reason may be. Doesn't seem like we're going to get a Tommy Dreamer anytime soon. So this is one of those basics you got to settle with, and a lot of these basics I like to merge in with my Elites. They scale in there just fine, and this Tommy Dreamer is right in there on my ECW shelf, no doubt about it. So Tommy Dreamer, not the greatest figure, but our only Tommy Dreamer figure and a favorite of mine. That's why he comes in at number 7. We are at the number 6 spot in our countdown, and this one very similar to the Baron Corbin we talked about, the MVP we talked about, but possibly one of the most modern day versatile figures in the basic line. We're going to Basic Series 129. We're going to The Miz in his blue suit. Now, this is a great figure just by itself. Of course, The Miz is on Raw. It feels like more in a suit than he actually is in his wrestling gear. He's doing a lot of stuff, a lot of announcing, a lot of Miz TV, of course, hosting WrestleMania WrestleMania. You name it, he's doing that. Media appearances, of course, things like that as well. So The Miz is all over the place, and he's usually in a suit when he does do it. So this is a very current Miz for your collection that you need to have, and it is a very good figure. However, this one is so versatile because you pop the head off. This is a very modern suit for a lot of wrestlers, especially AEW and other places, wear suits like this all the time. So you pop this head off, you put a different head on there, and wham, you got a very modern take on a business suit for any performer you want to. Great for customizers, great for that. A whole other aspect of this figure is there, which makes this figure so good. But like I said, it's good for what it is. It's even better for what it can be. So number 6 for me, 129, basic Miz. We've hit the halfway point of our countdown here. You got your list together? Make sure you put it in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this very YouTube channel. We've hit the number 5 spot, and I would say this is possibly the sleeper of this top 10 countdown. This is one a lot of people forgot about. This one did come from Basic Series 110. Who is it? It is Liv Morgan. Yes, Liv Morgan. Now, we've had a few different Liv Morgans, including in the Elite line. Now, this is a reuse of the head sculpt, of course, from her first Elite figure, with a little twist, and the twist is the pink hair here. I think they nailed the head sculpt here. They nailed the look of Liv Morgan at the time perfectly in basic form, but that pink hairdo, something about that really takes this figure to the next level. Absolutely do love it, and this is my favorite Liv Morgan figure. I know the Elite one at the same time is very similar, maybe upped a little bit with some of the accessories, but something about the pink hair on this one is just an absolute game changer. And I guess theoretically you could switch those heads around if you really wanted to. But this is such a sleeper figure, and a lot of people have forgotten about it. A lot of people don't remember it, but definitely a good Liv Morgan figure here, and that's why it comes in at number 5 in this top 10 list. Getting dangerously close to the number 1 spot, but this time we're at number 4, and number 4 comes to us all the way back from Basic Series 60. And who is it? It's one of my all-time favorites. As a kid, I, of course, was a little stinger. Maybe not this Sting, but it is the Crow Sting from Basic Series 60. Definitely Crow Sting. We all know Crow Sting, and it's crazy to me. It's hard for me still to wrap my head around it that Crow Sting is more remembered and iconic, possibly, than Surfer Sting. And a whole generation of Surfer Sting fans like myself, we just shed one tear. But I think most people in this day and age know him as Crow Sting, of course. But this Sting figure is always very, very cool. It's one that always catches my eye. Of course, it has a little bit more articulation than the basics they do nowadays, so it almost feels a little bit more like an Elite. Of course, the shining star of the Sting Mattel figures is probably his Defining Moments figure. I guess it's arguable, but a lot of people love that Defining Moments Crow Sting. They love the Surfer Sting one too, but the Crow Sting for sure. But I always like that one kind of as the display one with the jacket, everything else. This is my Sting to display. It kind of reminds me of his time in the WWE as well as this one here. So a versatile Sting, a cool Sting, but just a beautiful, beautiful head on this Sting that really brings it home. It got Sting in figure form basically perfectly on this one here. So no doubt about it, it was going to be on my list, and it's all the way up at number 4. Down to the final 3, and you knew there was no way this one wouldn't be in a top 10 video, of course, of anything wrestling. Who is it? It's my all-time favorite. It is the Ultimate Warrior from Basic Series 31. And this Warrior, what does this remind you of? This reminds me of Hasbro Series 1 Ultimate Warrior. And this, much like that Sid we talked about earlier, I am absolutely shocked Mattel hasn't ran this gear in an Elite line, an Ultimate line, something. Because I think a lot of people, when they close their eyes and think of the Ultimate Warrior, this is what they think of. This is one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic look to the Ultimate Warrior, with the neon pink, the neon green, and of course the screaming head here. Just, this is Ultimate Warrior that a lot of people from the 80s remember. I have to imagine sooner rather than later we're going to get this either in the Ultimate line or the Elite line. There's just too much meat on the bone right here for people, and a lot of people that are sick of Warriors, I think, would buy an updated version of this Ultimate Warrior. Just an absolute awesome, awesome figure here. Just absolutely do like this one, and that's why it's coming in at number 3 in my top 10 list. Here we are at the number 2 spot in the countdown, getting dangerously close to number 1 and number 2. Once again, we talk about those suited figures. There's something special about a suited basic figure, and this guy is, when you think of suits in wrestling, this is probably where your mind goes, depending on how long you've been a fan, I guess. But for me, when I think of a suited wrestler, I know exactly where I'm going. I know who I'm going to. I'm going to the Nature Boy. I'm going to Ric Flair, and I'm going to the Flashback Walmart exclusive line for the suited Ric Flair. Back in his styling and profiling days in the 80s, this is just Ric Flair to a T back then. And yes, this could be versatile. This could be used with other people. I never did. This is good enough for me just for Ric Flair. Absolutely love the looks of this. No wild shenanigans with this. No crazy suit colors, anything. It's just Ric Flair in the 80s leading the Horsemen, going off to the next Marriott hotel and winning some championships. That's what this one's about right here. Definitely looks cool. I love the head sculpt on it. Love the glasses on him. That's a nice little touch here. It's just when I think of basics, that's where I always go to. Suited figures. They're perfect for my collection and suited. A lot of times the wrestling figures, I'll get them in elites. I'll get them in elites unless it's something really, really special. This Ric Flair, a no-brainer. Had to pick this one up day one at Walmart and get a little harder to find these days as well as this Ric Flair. But definitely basic to a T right here is Ric Flair in the old suit. Coming in at number 2, we got one left. Who is number 1? Stay tuned. We've arrived at the end of our top 10 countdown. You got your list together. Put it in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All that kind of fun stuff. But we've hit the number 1 basic WWE Mattel figure of all time. And when I got my list together, a lot of stuff changed. This one never did. From the moment this figure was released multiple years ago, I said this is the greatest basic figure of all time. There's something about this that just can't be topped. And all these years later, I'm waiting, I'm hoping for something to top it for me. But which one are we talking about? We're throwing it all the way back to Basic Series 98. And once again, we're headed to the Ultimate Warrior. Yes, the Ultimate Warrior Basic Series 98. Now, it's interesting here as by no means, I think, I don't know if there's an Ultimate Warrior fan out there that would say this is his most iconic outfit. This is Warrior's best outfit of all time. I don't know anybody that would say that. But something about the whole total package on this one. The white cowboy boots, the tassels, the orange and the yellow, a different color, not quite neon stuff going on. The tassels on the arms, the painted wrist tape. But then, of course, a head sculpt we've seen numerous times from Mattel. Got to get the most out of your molds, of course. But this head sculpt, the screaming head sculpt, the Ultimate Warrior, with this more simple paint scheme, there is something about this that just feels like it is true to life. It almost feels real to me. And this is the same head sculpt as the Warrior we saw just a little bit ago in this very countdown. But something about the paint colors on this one is just so vibrant and pops so well, it just can't be stopped. And of course, there is an elite version of this that was released in the Royal Rumble wave back in the day. And a lot of people took this head and put that over there. And I can't fault them for it, as this head is just an absolute game changer of a head for the Ultimate Warrior. I absolutely love this figure. Like I said, when I put this list together, I usually map them out, I sleep on it, then I move some things. Sometimes I'll sleep on it again, move some things. This time, put him at number 1. He stayed at number 1 to the end. And I remember being so excited hunting for this one as well. This was probably the hardest I ever hunted for a basic in my life. I was so excited for this one to come out. I could not wait. Just absolutely crazy. But love this Ultimate Warrior. No doubt he was going to be number 1. No doubt he stays at number 1 in my top 10 basic figures of all time. But what say you guys and gals? Let me know in the comments your top 10 Mattel basic figures of all time. Make sure you put them in order. That's the hard part. That is the fun part. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget about Patreon, of course, as we always say. Early access to videos like this, bonus content, exclusive content, giveaways, Q&As, you name it, all going over there on the old Patreon channel. Also, the best way to support the channel. You can also support the channel, ProWrestlingTees.com, search Kyle Peterson. Don't forget social media, SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson. So for the Ultimate Warrior and the rest of the basics, I am Kyle. See you guys all real soon.